Between 2001 and 2005, the United States delivered 2,099 surface-to-air missiles to nations in the developing world, 20% more than Russia, the next largest supplier. During that same period, the U.S. sent 10 major surface combatants, like aircraft carriers and destroyers, to developing nations. Collectively, the 4 major European weapons producers shipped 13. And we were first in the anti-ship missiles that go along with such ships, with nearly double, 338, the exports of the next largest supplier, Russia, 180. A thoughtful empire knows that it is not enough to send weapons. You have to teach people how to use them. The Pentagon plans on training the militaries of 138 nations in 2008 at a cost of nearly $90 million. No other nation comes close. According to best-selling author Jeremy Scahill, there are at least 126,000 private military personnel deployed alongside uniformed military personnel in Iraq alone. Of the more than 60 major companies that supply such personnel worldwide, more than 40 are U.S.-based. Rest assured, governments around the world, often at each other's throats, will want U.S. weapons long after their people have turned up their noses at a range of once dominant American consumer goods. Just a few days ago, for instance, the trade publication Defense News reported that Turkey and the United States signed a $1.78 billion deal for Lockheed Martin's F-16 fighter planes. As it happens, these planes are already ubiquitous. Israel flies them. So does the United Arab Emirates, Poland, South Korea, Venezuela, Oman, and Portugal, not to speak of most other modern air forces. In many ways, F-16 is not just a high-tech fighter jet. It's also a symbol of U.S. backing and friendship. Buying our weaponry is one of the few ways you can actually join the American Imperial Project.
In order to remain number one in the competitive jet field, Lockheed Martin, for example, does far more than just sell airplanes. TAI, Turkey's aerospace corporation, will receive a boost with this sale because Lockheed Martin is handing over responsibility for parts of production, assembly, and testing to Turkish workers. The Turkish Air Force already has 215 F-16 fighter planes and plans to buy 100 of Lockheed Martin's new F-35 Joint Strike Fighter as well, in a deal estimated at $10.7 billion over the next 15 years.
$10.7 billion on fighter planes for a country that ranks 94th on the United Nations Human Development Index, below Lebanon, Colombia, and Grenada, and far below all the European nations that Ankara is courting as it seeks to join the European Union. Now that's a real American sales job for you. Here's the strange thing, though. This genuine gold medal manufacturing and sales job on weapons simply never gets the attention it deserves. As a result, most Americans have no idea how proud they should be of our weapons manufacturers in the Pentagon, especially our global sales force, that makes sure our weapons travel the planet and regularly demonstrates their value in small wars from Latin America to Central Asia. Of course, there's tons of data on the weapons trade, but who knows about any of it?
I'm typical here. I help produce one of a dozen or so sober annual or semi-annual reports quantifying the business of war making. In my case, the Arms Trade Resource Center Report. U.S. weapons at war, fueling conflict, or promoting freedom.
These reports get desultory, obligatory press attention. But only once in a blue moon do they get the sort of full court press treatment that befits our #1 product line. Dense collections of facts, percentages, and comparisons don't seem to fit particularly well into the usual patchwork of front-page stories. And yet, the mainstream press is a glory ride, compared to the TV news, which hardly acknowledges most of the time that the weapons business even exists. No reader checking out such a piece is going to feel much, except maybe overwhelmed by facts. The connection between the factory that makes a weapon system and the community where that weapon does its duty is invariably missing in action, as are the relationships among the companies making the weapons, and the generals on duty and retired, and politicians making the deals, or raking in their own cut of the profits for themselves and or their constituencies. In other words, our most successful and most deadly export remains our most invisible one. Maybe the only way to break through this paralysis of analysis would be to stop talking about weapons exports as a trade at all. Maybe we shouldn't be using economic language to describe it. Yes, the weapons industry has associations, lobby groups, and trade shows. They have the same trifold exhibits, scale models, and picked-over buffets as any other industry. Still, maybe we have to stop thinking about the export of fighter planes and precision-guided missiles as if they were so many widgets, and start thinking about them in another language entirely, the language of drugs. After all, what does a drug dealer do? He creates a need and then fills it. He encourages an appetite, or, even more lucratively, an addiction, and then feeds it. Arms dealers do the same thing. They suggest to foreign officials that
their military just might need a slight upgrade.
After all, they'll point out, haven't you noticed that your neighbor just upgraded in jets, submarines, and tanks? And didn't you guys fight a war a few years back? Doesn't that make you feel insecure? And why feel insecure for another moment when, for just a few $billion, we'll get you suited up with the latest model military? Even better than what we sold them, or you the last time around. Why does Turkey, which already has 215 fighter planes, need 100 extras in an even higher tech version? It doesn't. But Lockheed Martin, working the Pentagon, made them think they did. We don't need stronger arms control laws. We need a global sobriety coach. Some kind of 12-step program for the dealer nation as well.